So here we are. This is Project Herpetoculture Podcast, episode number 68. This is our first attempt at a live episode, which is fun. We're excited about this. Very curious to see how it goes. And as usual, we're going to go through our standard housekeeping before we dive in. And first, I want to give a shout out to Dylan and the Animals at Home Network for hosting our podcast. Although this is live, this will also be posted after the fact on our standard stream. So you'll be able to find it on all the usual podcast platforms. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors. So we have Custom Reptile Habitats, and they are makers of premium PVC reptile enclosures. We have an affiliate link for them posted in our bio. And if you make a purchase through that link, we will receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. We always appreciate that when those come through. We also have Cold Blooded Caffeine, and they are roasters of delicious coffees from all over the world. They have an awesome private label for us, which is a light roast from Wanda. Highly recommend trying it if you like kind of more floral, light, fruity coffees, as I tend to enjoy. But any coffee you try from them, if you use the code PROJECTHERP, you'll receive 10% off your order. We also have Fairy Tale Dragons. That's Heather Moy and Ron St. Pierre, true legends of herpetoculture, producing some of the finest bearded dragons in the world, alongside a bunch of other cool obscure herpetofauna. So give them a follow. And if you're looking for bearded dragons, look no further than Fairy Tale.
Legendary.
Absolutely. And lastly, our newest sponsor, we have Tamura Designs. And Tamura makes some of the finest enclosures, habitat systems out there, including some of these incredible condos, which you can see right over here. This is what I use for rearing all of my baby herps here. All those are full of spilotes right now, but they're also great for my polychrus and all kinds of other stuff. And they also are really perfectly suited for smaller species of herp. And it's just that they produce larger enclosures as well and awesome deli cup displays. I just had one that I used at Pomona, my first deli cup display. So I felt like, oh, wow, I'm moving up in the world of herpetoculture. So
the real deal.
The real deal, a deli cup display, and from Tamura. So if you're in the market for any of that, use the code Herpetoculture and you will receive 15% off a single item in your order, which is pretty awesome because they don't do that often. And lastly, I want to say thank you to Happy Dragons. Our partners at Happy Dragons have made this possible. Obviously, we are on their Twitch channel right now doing this. And we're really stoked about Happy Dragons and what they're doing. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up. I'm going to switch to a little graphic here. You can see our schedule for Q1 here with Happy Dragons. This is our streaming calendar. So obviously today we're doing our live podcast. Next will be a webinar stream about researching your herp. That will be on the 20th. And if you look there on the screen, you can see some other fun stuff coming up in February and March, including some more live Q&A type things and webinars. And yeah, of course, I also forgot to give Charlie a shout out. So I'm going to do that now.
Oh,
Charlie.
dude. Unbelievable.
I know, it's terrible. Charlie is one of my dearest friends, and he is the one who edits our audio. He provides our incredible theme music, and he's just an all-around legend. So thanks to Charlie for helping us out and all of that.
Let's go, Chuck.
Chuck D. All right, man. So Phil, how you doing, man? We're doing this live.
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. It's kind of remarkable. I don't know if it's fully sunk in. I'm kind of watching out my window because we are expecting some. Oh, look at that sick mug, dude! Whoa, we're expecting some pretty cold weather here over the next week, and it's kind of funny. From where I am here in Denver, you can kind of see the mountains, and for the last few days, when it's gotten really cold, we've seen there's like these clouds like hanging right over the mountains, just kind of hanging there. And now they're like making their way eastward across the Front Range, and I'm just like, oh man, it's just it's supposed to be like -2 for the next like 5 days in a row, and I'm just like not ready for that. I'm not ready for the cold and having to commute and make my moves in the snow. It gets kind of tricky for me because I have to drive a lot, but it's okay. And I'm still just at the very tail end. I still am coughing just a little bit from the unfortunate and absolutely devastating flu that I had over the last week, that sadly kept me from participating in the sake of our conversations today, which is the Pomona show in LA. And of course, you were there, and I was not. I had intended to be there. In fact, I had sent animals with very little labeling because I was like, I'm going to be there to take care of it, and I know what I'm looking at, and then I all of a sudden find myself unable to be there, and so I'm doing okay. But how about yourself, Roy? How's things on your end?
Oh, things are pretty good. Yeah, as you know, I got right back from Pomona and immediately dove into work. I was just gone for 2 days, following the 4 days that I was away for Pomona. I was gone working
Yeah.
and doing stewardship work, making burn piles, splitting wood, doing chainsaw work, which is fun. I love doing that, but it's also kind of a crazy thing to leave right on the heels of being gone for that long, leaving our little
Yeah,
wolf
that's really
and all the reptiles behind. But everybody's doing well.
hmm
Today I spent the whole day kind of catching up with the herps and taking care of everybody, feeding babies, and everybody's doing great. So I
good,
feel really
good. And
grateful to Catherine for making sure the misting reservoir is full and all the water bowls are full. So shout out to Katerina
mm,
for keeping things on the rails there.
yeah, let's
Um,
go.
and yeah, man, it was obviously super sad not to have you at Pomona,
Yeah, no, I know.
but it was a good experience. It was pretty funny, y'all. Phil called me. So Phil sent his euros to our mutual
Yeah.
friend Chris on Wednesday. And then Thursday at 6 a.m., I got a call from Phil and sounding like absolute death and with a fever of 104 degrees. And I was like, oh
It was
no.
100.
You're-
It was 103 at first,
okay.
and
It
it's
was bad, people.
which is still not good. It was like it bounced pretty consistently between like 102 and then occasionally hitting 104. And it did not want to respond to Tylenol or to like nothing that like the things we typically think of as like fever reducers and things that help you feel better. Just did not want to make a dent. The first couple of nights trying to sleep with that flu was like horrific,
Mm,
because it was one of those things where you're congested and coughing, so you can't really lay on your back, right? Because then you'll just cough. Your whole body is aching, so you can't find a comfortable place to sit still because your whole body's pissed. And then you're so feverish that every single time you move, it makes that feeling like when you move your skin across sheets and you're sick, where like it hurts. It feels like it hurts. The friction from the sheets on your skin feels like painful, and it causes you to shiver just because
hmm
you're like, ugh, so cold and so damn feverish. And so I did not sleep at all, really, for the first couple of nights. And
That's
I
awful,
mean,
man.
it was horrific. It was so bad. And I mean, for folks out there who don't fully understand this part of it, like on my end anyway, like I had this terrible, terrible, terrible feeling because like, we had Roy and I had rallied resources for the show. We'd paid for our flights with, we had Roy had gone through the trouble of getting a bunch of stickers made and shirts and pint glasses and mugs and all these things like set to go for the show. And I had sent my euros out there. Roy drove 8 hours, by the way, like all the way up, no, south, right? So he went
hmm
south. So he
Yeah.
drove 8 hours from where he's living to get down there. And um, I had a friend of mine, Josh Marquis, who, upon hearing that I was going to go, decided to go out to the Pomona show. And I had more than one person who on like Instagram and on the socials had heard that I was going to be there and then went as a result. Like they wanted to go and they, you know, because they wanted to meet us and everything. And then I couldn't go. And like, you know, the thing of it was, if it had been any other kind of illness where it was like, oh, I just have the sniffles, or like I have a light cough, I'm just feeling a little crummy, but it's like it's just a regular cold, I would have toughed it out. Like I would have just gone. But by the time that Friday rolled around, I was so like I remember having this moment of such gratitude that I did not push through and try to get out to the show because there's no way I would have reasonably been it would have been horrible. Like I just would have gotten Roy and Chris sick. And you know, Chris has two little infant boys at home, and I didn't want to like transmit anything their way for, you know, just by being around those guys. And I mean, it was just so goddamn bad. And then, you know, so then Friday, or maybe it was Saturday morning, you know, Roy and Chris, obviously being the champs that they are, were just like, hey, like it's cool, man. Like we'll help you out. We'll hawk your euros and whatever. and so they like call me Saturday morning and they're like, okay, like, hey, here are all the euros you sent. Here's like the labels. These two didn't have labels on them, and this one the label fell off. And so I had to like get them to show me the animals individually and like let me get an eye on them because I can like tell which ones they were, and I'll be like, okay, those two are siblings, and that one can share labels with that one, and then this or not. I mean, it was just, god damn it. It was, it was such an ordeal, man. It was obnoxious. It was just obnoxious. And I hate the feeling that someone is picking up my slack, especially because of something out of my control. Like it's just extra horrendous for my money. I don't know.
Well, man, you can't help being sick, and you know it all worked out pretty dang well. I think it was actually good in some ways for me because you know my plan for Pomona was just like, okay, I'm gonna hide behind Phil the whole weekend, and I don't have to do the talking. Everyone's gonna want to see Phil. I can just kind of linger back here and just be some rando. And then I couldn't
Nobody's
do
interested
that.
in
I
you.
had to I had to be actually be out there and talking to people and you know, it was great. It was a good experience. It was definitely like just crazy overstimulating and like just such a wild thing. I've never been to a show that big or like that like packed. Like it was like the aisles, you know, at peak hours, like you couldn't walk through
Yeah.
them. It was just like a solid sea of people, which I've never been to a show like that before. So that was cool to see just like as a spectacle, you know, and you know, of course, did get to see some folks from the podcast, you know, who came by and said hello, which was really cool to have folks come by and say, "Oh, wow, you know, I listened to your show," and everyone
Yeah.
was really nice and really complimentary about the show, which is always nice to hear, of course. And
Can I
yeah, go
can
ahead.
I show you this is what I make this is what I think of when I think of you getting ready to like get ready for the introverts preparing to say here during roll
That's it.
call, during attendance.
Yeah,
It's
that's me.
just
That's basically me.
yeah. And I just see you just being like, you know,
It
like,
was
oh no, I gotta talk.
here we go, you know, brace myself. No, you know,
Yeah.
I felt pretty cheerful about it all, honestly. Like
Yeah.
I was a little bit panicked at first. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy. But it all worked out. It was
Yeah.
great. And, you know, it was really sweet to see some like just people that I really admire within the herpetoculture world. You know, Philippe was there, of course. It was good to see
Yeah.
Philippe
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know, good to see a lot of friends from the show, people we've had on the show,
Mm.
like Armin and
Mm-hmm.
Jay and
Mm-hmm.
just a whole bunch of folks. I mean, too many to name, including some folks that like, you know, I've known from social media for like 5 or 6 years, but have never actually met, you know, face to face, got to meet them, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually brought my big male sulfurious handsome boy to the show, and
Yeah.
which I was a little bit like, okay, do I want to bring this snake to the show? It's a little bit scary for me to bring like this very beloved animal. I don't want to stress him out. You know, he's 16 years old. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot that was going through my mind about it, but that turned out to be like such a highlight because he just did great. Like he was super relaxed at the show. Like I there were multiple times where like, you know, I would have him out and he would be kind of wrapped around me, just kind of hanging out for like an hour at a time, you know, and he was
Wow.
just chilling, like not puffing up at all, not getting stressed, just like slowly flicking his tongue. Just checking everything out, just like, whoa, what is this? You know, I think that for him, it was probably like a bit of a psychedelic experience with all the stimuli, you know, that was coming his way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did great. And it was really cool too, because some of the people at that show had actually met him before because he's been to the Reptile Super Show back before I had him again, you know, when it was his prior steward. And so some of those folks like recognized him and saw him again, got to see him again, and that was really cool to see. And well, I think only 2 people correctly ID'd what species of snake he is because he's just such a giant. Dude,
and I can imagine it too. I imagine somebody walking through and being like, "Whoa, is that a
Usually it was, oh my God, is that a Crebo? And which is, you know, understandable because like, yeah, it's a giant colubrid, you know, a Crebo makes sense. And I'm like, it's actually, I think I said the word, he's actually an Amazon puffing snake probably 600 times over the course of the 2 days.
Yeah, sure. I just love the idea that. Yeah, I'm just like love the idea that someone came up and was just like calling him by his Latin, be like, "Is that a sulfurious bolodite?" You know, and just like the nerdiest humans imaginable. Like,
yes,
like I gotta admit, I really have to admit, like, I was very excited to go. I was so excited to go hang out with you and hang out with Chris, and then very importantly, I really wanted to hang out with I wanted to meet everybody, you know, I have like this bizarre experience of herpetoculture where it's like, it would have been weird. It just would have been weird enough if I got to kind of where I am in my career and had not met anybody really in person, you know. Just literally just haven't, you know, like I went to Iguana Fest one time, you know what I mean? And like, I got to go to that and I got to meet some super cool people there and it was great fun, but that was it. And then since then, I haven't been to a single show or a single symposium. And then like, you know, we were both set up to speak at the second Herpeton, which then fell through, right? And so then because of COVID, and so then it's like, well, I didn't get to go meet everybody then. And that just that just sort of disappeared and kind of made me feel weird, right? And then but to add on top of that we do this show, and it's like I've gotten, you know, because technically I've like obviously met a lot of people now. Like I've technically met Philippe and Ron and Eric and you know literally everybody, but I've never met only like 2 or 3 of those people that have been on the show I've ever met in person.
Right.
That's just, you know, and it's like it's such a bizarre phenomenon. It's like to have what I feel like is an extended network of sort of acquaintances and surface level friends and whatnot and sort of career cronies and all that nonsense. But it's so weird to have not met these people in the damn flesh, and it's just, God, it's infuriating. Like I really can't wait till the opportunity finally presents itself to me to be able to like sit and have a beer with some of those guys and just shoot the shit and be like, hey, check out, hey, Armin, look at those knolls. How about that? You know, like look at all those things, you know? And yeah, Anolis, sick, you know? Like, yeah.
It's coming,
and I know it's coming. I know, and I'm sure we'll be at Tinley for various reasons, which, you know, I guess we technically could talk about at some point, but maybe we'll just hold off on that. But you know, it seems like such a unique phenomenon, right? Because um, everyone like it's just such it's just a whole nother thing when you get to meet people face to face, shake their hand, see the animals that they brought with them to the show, talk about them, be like, hey, what's up with that thing? What's with that stupid? What's
Mm-hmm.
with this giant Crebo that you have, Roy? What is this? You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It was but you got to endure the whole slog of it all. So tell me more about it. Tell me more about what you felt and sort of what the experience was like for you.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like I didn't really experience the show very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like my experience of like walking through and seeing other tables and other vendors and stuff was literally like
Mm.
the circuit between me and like the bathroom. Because
Oh man,
because
sure.
literally like we would get there and like after setup, and
Yeah.
I never sat down for the full 2 days. I was just standing there, talking to people at the
Uh,
booth, and which was awesome. Like, and I didn't really expect to do a lot of walking around. I think that if you were there,
oh yeah, we would have
it
had
would have been
to.
easier. We would have had to, but it was fine to just focus on that and like I'm really thankful to like Chris and Jose and Kayla and everybody at the booth who was helping out, with coverage, and because we were sharing a booth with Chris of Sharpshooter Reptiles and kind of
Yeah.
his crew, and Kayla from Infrared Reptiles was there the whole time too, and just kind of that was nice to be able to be like, hey, y'all, can y'all just keep an eye on things so I can go just take a walk real quick, and but I was just like pretty blown away by the scale of the show. And there's definitely like this sense that like, okay, this is like a heavily promoted show, and part of that is that like it's the Reptile Super Show, and so it's a spectacle, as much as it is like a marketplace. It's like a spectacle for people, and so like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a
yeah,
full
sure.
like 50% of the people that are there are not reptile people really at all. They're like people that are like, all
They're
right,
just coming
kids,
to
you want to
see
go
what the
have a
hell's going
crazy
on.
experience this weekend? Yeah, which was
Yeah,
also really cool because there were like all these like little kids who were like,
yeah,
whoa, what's this giant snake that you're holding? And like, can I pet it? And like, they have no idea that they're what this animal is, or how weird it is
sure,
or anything. But it's cool to
sure.
get to talk to them about that kind of thing. And yeah, and it was also really cool to connect with like other people who are into like, the more hardcore stuff and who did recognize that snake, and
Yeah,
like recognized your Euros and were like, oh, these are captive bred. Like that's awesome, and like these are,
yeah. Captain
look
Bread is
how
hot.
beautiful they look, and
Yeah,
so that was really cool. And there were some folks who came by that like already had Euros from you, who were like there
sick,
to get their second Euro, and
crazy,
and that was
crazy.
so cool to like talk to some folks. There's one fellow, I think his name was Justin. I hope I'm getting that correct, but
Yeah,
he
Justin
ended up,
Smith.
yeah, he ended up picking up one of your Euros, and
Hmm.
he already had one, so he picked up another, and he was also showing me like photos on his phone of this like incredible outdoor enclosure that he had made for his cyclura in his backyard that was just like so
Oh,
awesome. And
that's cool.
so that's like it's always so cool to connect with folks like that who are just like really passionate and who like really care about their animals and are just like trying to do the absolute best they can. And I always just like have a ton of respect and appreciation for that. And
Yeah,
I was able to find homes for two of the neonate sulfurius I brought, which felt great. And I feel like they really ended up with like in really good hands, which is really, I mean, that's the
nice.
priority. It's like, especially with selling, herps at shows, I feel like in some ways, the rarity of the species that I'm working with for the most part is like a bit of a safeguard from this, but it's always a little bit like, gosh, I want to be confident that the animals I'm, selling are ending up in a good place. And sometimes at a show, it can feel like hard to gauge that. But
Yeah.
I felt really good about the people that they went home with. They were really experienced keepers who had worked with other, big colubrids and other stuff in like the kind of puffing snake complex. So
Sure. Sure.
that felt really good. And yeah, man. I mean, it was also fun too, like the after the show experience, like, going out to eat and just like hanging out.
Yeah.
We went to this place, this restaurant called Tropical Mexico, and it was just like this table of 20 people. We just like
That's
got a
awesome.
bunch of tables and put them all together. And, a bunch of like very intergenerational group of people. And that was really cool. And, Nick
That's so
Vine,
fun.
who, you and I both know was there, and he came out to dinner with us too. And,
Great.
it was just like, it was just really sweet. So I'm definitely like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, that was a great like first go at this, and definitely like affirms this kind of longing that I've felt about really wanting more more like surface area with folks this year, like in person, and like more community aspect of herpetoculture, and trying to like make it more tangible and less online. So
Yeah.
that felt really good to experience. And yeah.
Yeah. It also, even though I didn't go because I was dying, uh, I I pretty much felt that the way you described the experience made me pretty confident that if I was to go like next time, the next either Super Show or a Tinley or whatever, I don't think I'd bring anything. I think I would just go and
Mm-hmm.
walk around and meet people and talk to
Mm-hmm.
people. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I'm not sure I would want to vend
Mm-hmm.
again for a while, just because you said it yourself. You said you were so caught up with talking to people who are coming to our booth, to your booth,
Mm-hmm.
and to who were talking to you and wanting to pick your brain and whatnot. And as great as that is, and as fun as that sounds, it's just like, ooh, man, I don't think I could be stopped from going to walk around. I would just so naturally just go walk around and go look. I'd be like, I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go look. I just that's kind of the person I am, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't imagine. I think next time, maybe if we do end up at Tinley, I think that seems like that should probably be the move. Maybe
Oh yeah.
no vending. And actually, I'm not even sure what I've got anymore, man. I've got such a small number of ornates available now.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, it's really dwindled a lot more quickly than I anticipated.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
like the idea of maybe like, yeah, of not really focusing on vending, but maybe doing like pre-orders. If people want to like pre-order, an animal or something, then like bring it, which is like, I think that's also just a cool thing to do in general too. It helps like, again, disrupt that
Yeah,
whole like, vetting process that can be kind of complicated at a show. I know that Summer
yeah.
from the shop does that with their animals, and I think that's a cool way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Oh,
just see
hey,
this
Kitty.
message from, I think it's Paul. Hey, Paul. I'm pretty sure that's you. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's interesting. I didn't see that about the unsold animals being dropped off at the local rescue, but yeah, I mean, of the small amount of the show that I saw, like I think I probably saw only like 25% of the tables, something like that, and even then it was just like walking by and kind of like quickly doing a cursory glance over things. Of course, like Super Bowl Python heavy. I mean, I think that's my experience of all of the shows I've been to since returning to herpetoculture in 2018, is that it's like, a more than 50% of the show is made up of ball pythons, crested geckos,
Mm-hmm.
like probably just honestly those two species are honestly a lot of
Hmm.
times 50% of a show, and then another strong percentage is going to be like beardies and leopard
Mm.
geckos, and then kind of everything after that is like really in small numbers. So I didn't see the part about, yeah, again, like them dropping out sold animals at the rescue. That's kind of a dark
Yeah.
a dark thing. There was definitely like a lot of like running around at the end of the show, folks being like, are you guys buying? And
Yeah,
people
sure.
trying to move along animals that they clearly didn't want to be going home with them. But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's probably
I mean,
inevitable at most shows like that.
yeah. I'm sort of curious about that whole realm of herpetoculture because, like, for example, um, it does seem to be that, like, in some ways, ball pythons have turned into sort of like the koi of our world, right? Like the ball pythons are like the koi equivalent of the freshwater fish market in some way.
Hmm.
Um, and like, I wouldn't be at all surprised, like you go to a home and I don't know, what do you call them? A pond show, right? Where it's all about pond stuff. And while it might not be exclusively koi, it's like it's probably gonna be mostly koi, you
Hmm.
know? And I kind of wonder, like, what do you see the same things in those places? And if not, like, why? Because it's like, I like ball pythons, and I think if they're gonna be what they are, then I just really wonder about, like, what causes that, like, why people treat them in that way. And do we
Hmm.
see that in other sort of like parallel type markets, and sort of what the differences are, like, why is it? Because in some way, koi, it's almost got to be worse because koi, like, those things breed by the thousand, I mean, those
Hmm.
things spawn in crazy numbers. My mom has them spawn in her pond,
Hmm.
every year, and it's like, if overpopulation, market saturations are problems, then it's like you'd imagine you'd see it there too.
Hmm.
But I wonder if there's just a different ethic. I wonder if there's just a totally different conception of, like, what's going on in that world. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. I wish I had insight into it. I feel like we
Yeah.
should talk to somebody who's like more in that world, find somebody who can offer some insight from that side of, of the fence, so to speak. Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, definitely does seem as though there's this point where we're at of just like market saturation, and just like a
Mm.
true abundance of animals. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's like, it gets super complicated when we're talking about living creatures, and
Yeah.
I've definitely been seeing a lot more and more conversation about that happening in online spaces. And I feel like honestly, it's one of those realms that I want to educate myself better about, because again, it feels like
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to this in the past, but that like I feel like I occupy this like niche within a niche, in herpetoculture, where it's like I have like basically no interface with that side of herpetoculture. And that was actually kind
Mm.
of one of the interesting things about going to this show, is that like and also having this podcast that we have, is that it's exposing me to like a much broader
Mm.
image of what herpetoculture is, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that like I try to maintain some kind of awareness about that it is this much larger project than just the thing that I'm seeing, or the
Sure.
thing that I'm
Yeah.
practicing, because it's
Yeah.
definitely a much broader thing than that. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It's strange, I mean, especially, like, it also wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me, that some breeders would take unsold animals and drop them at a table for a rescue. It's like, what? Like, because, like, you wouldn't do that with, I mean, again, like, if we're going to talk about the way people sort of commoditize the animals, you wouldn't do that with just straight up product. Like, why would, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's like, it's just, it is so bizarre to me. Yeah, Matt, there are koi goldfish hybrids. Yes, that is in fact true. Yeah, I've seen them. They're super neat. I mean, a koi is basically a carp,
Yeah.
which is basically, that's what a goldfish is a carp. A
Hmm.
carp, Matt. Nice. I know, Matt. We're friends, so I'm just giving
Yeah.
him a hard
Yeah.
time. But, like, yeah, I love carp, actually. And Magikarp was one of my favorite Pokemon because he evolved into Gyarados, and that's
Oh
my
yeah.
jam. I was
Here we
I was
go.
I was so into that. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just
Now we're
waiting
really
for us
talking
to
about the
get to
good.
talk about Pokemon. Yeah. Here we go.
Oh, really? Okay. What was your favorite Pokemon? Nice.
Oh man, I don't know. I feel on the spot.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah.
remember. I
How
don't
dare you?
remember.
But yeah,
Sorry.
but anyhow, no, it's okay. It's okay. but it's like, but really, there is something. There's something in that kind of perplexes me a lot. Like why it's like, yeah, sure, we can go ahead and table the things that seem obvious to us, which is that, well, of course these are living creatures. You should treat them with some sort of dignity and respect. Which is like, yeah, me too, kiddies. I'm technically still into Pokemon. I still collect the cards. Don't hate on me here, but hey, kitty, come here. Come here,
I
kitty.
gifted all I think I had like the original 150. I think I had
Ooh.
all the cards and I gifted them to a really passionate kiddo at one point, I remember.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but I can't say that I'm still up to date. Or how many Pokemon are there now?
Too many. Too many.
A lot more
There
than
should have only
150.
been. Yeah, way more than 151, and unfortunately, which is a drag because they really started scraping from the bottom of the creativity barrel when they started. Oh my god, dude, it's so bad. But it's like one of the things that I loved about Pokemon, or actually, I feel like, okay, this is actually kind of fair because, um, yeah, please do. Yeah, I'd appreciate that actually. But the but the but the reality is, like, one of the things I loved about Pokemon back in the day was that it felt like reptile breeding in some regard. It was like
Oh
not
yeah.
not the not the gotta catch 'em all mentality, but just like these were like fabled creatures. These were like creatures that you kind of engaged with on a pet. Yeah, it's great biodiversity. That's true, Matt. Yeah, but like it engaged with this like level of desire to keep something that was like a real living creature that was like a companion of yours. You know what I mean? And what I liked about a lot of the original Pokemon is they seemed like real things. Like they were like a
Hmm.
real, not obviously not that real, but like, real
Well,
enough.
it was like this iterative thing, going off of creatures that actually had like specific niches, right? And it was like trying to be like, okay, this Pokemon inhabits this niche, and
Yeah.
you are getting
Right.
some principles of like, uh, you know, of biology, I guess, from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I definitely felt like, when I used to play the little Game Boy Pokemon games, Pokemon
Hell yeah.
Yellow or
Yeah.
what
Red
I
and
can't,
yellow, baby.
yeah,
Let's
Red and
go.
Yellow, the originals.
And
And
blue.
right, and
Get
that
it,
it felt like
right, Roy.
that in some ways it felt like herping in the sense that like you're
Yeah.
cruising around and you're like looking for
Yeah.
critters, and
Total,
like
dude. Total. Yes.
especially when it was like wintertime, when I was living in
Yeah.
Utah as like a 10-year-old, and I couldn't
Yeah.
go outside and look for critters because it was snowing, but I could do it on my Game Boy. At least there was that.
Yeah.
So
And you had to go to the right places to find certain things. There were some that were more rare, some that were less, that were very very common. Some of them you had to like teach them moves, teach them stuff to do. Some of them you had to expose them to random stones to get them to evolve and all this stupid. It was like, this is sick. This is like the weirdest mythology. It's so interesting, and it
mhm.
really did have a lot of resemblance to herpetoculture. And I feel like we've really slid down the de-evolution train here into this. We're talking about Pokemon now. Like, what are we doing?
We got to get back on
Next,
back on the rails here.
no, well, if unfortunately what we're gonna do now is we're gonna end up talking about Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, because that's where this leads me. Like the leveling
Well,
up, and
then
yeah.
it'll have to be a monologue because I can't follow you there. I didn't unfortunately
How dare
experience
you?
those worlds. I
Well,
know.
that's highly
Well,
disappointing.
you should pity me because it's a sign of my deprivation.
Oh,
And the
I
true
pity
cultural
you for
poverty
sure.
that I
Yeah,
lived in.
yeah. No, that sounds like that does sound like cultural poverty. Yeah, like it's a real bummer.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, the
Speaking of,
chat. This is like what we needed to get the
yeah,
chat bump
this
in
is
here.
apparently we had to talk to everybody about Lapras and apparently Pikachu ramen over here, Pika ramen over here. That's great. That's incredible stuff. But any anyway, getting God damn it. This really got me. This is hysterically funny. Um, but uh, but something that I was kind of trying to I was gonna gear towards with regard
Hmm.
to like the show and kind of that weird like disposability factor and like kind of
Mm-hmm.
why that doesn't make much sense to me. It's like, um, you know, I get that space is at a premium. I get it, right? Like I am pretty much
Mm-hmm.
always at capacity in terms of space, but it's like if you have animals that can't be moved, just set up another damn cage, dude. Just set
Mm-hmm.
up another cage, like it, and stop breeding until don't breed anything else until you sell something more. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just yeah, exactly. You shouldn't breed anything you can't absorb, and it's like
Yep.
you know and like I've even had to go so far as to like get super super low tech about it by like setting propping up 4 or 5 tubs, like sterilite tubs, and hang lights over the top of them. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
technically what a lot of my setups are anyway, but like really
Yeah.
just set them up for 6 months. It's not gonna hurt them. If anything, it's gonna be better. It's gonna be way better for them to do that than to drop them off at a table for a rescue. I don't understand. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know where that that kind of desire to just get on to the next thing, to like get
Mm-hmm.
stuff out and have it not mean anything. And like the man, actually, this brings me to something else. So I went, okay, how do I have to make sure I say this in a diplomatic fashion because um, I don't want it to I don't want it to come across in any kind of way, and it could get kind of specific. So okay, so I went to a local shop, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really lucky that there are some great shops here in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
There's some maybe not so great, but there are some great shops here that have some good people, some with some solid ethic and good space and good cleanliness, and they do good work. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle, right? And but like I went into this shop and was kind of horrified by everything that I saw. Not the animals, right? Like the animals seemed okay. It was more like the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lady who had 2 kids with her walking around, and these kids were just like just just losing the I mean, they were like 7, 8 years old and were
Mm-hmm.
like knocking shit off the shelves and like pushing each other into the shelves. And this lady like only looked up from her phone to see what
Mm-hmm.
these 2 kids were up to just for a second to say,
Mm-hmm.
"Are you serious right now?" And then just keep walking and ignoring her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then there the there was another person who was there at the shop who was like just being so loud and so obnoxious and like in a way that's really really difficult to describe. Like to the point where you really wanted to almost say like, dude, you need to just quiet down. Like you're being so disruptive to everyone in here. Like what is going on
Mm-hmm.
with you? Like why are you doing this? Like can you definitely can tell what your volume is right now. Just bring it down. You're not the only person in the room, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And but it was even weirder because this person, I swear to God, they were trying to get me to to talk to them, but kind of in a weird peripheral way because
Mm-hmm.
they were he was like saying, "Oh yeah, I really want to get me some of those sandfish, those sandfish skinks, sandfish." And then I was like, "Huh, that's kind of weird. I have those." And then he was like, "Yeah, but I also thought I might get some Uromastics, those real nice ones, those ornate Uromastics." And I was like, "This is weird. I have those too."
Huh.
And then he's like, "Yeah, and I also thought I might get me some of those shield-tailed agamas, but $400, that's just too much for a dinky little lizard. Those shield-tailed agamas." And he was talking to the
Oh,
guy behind
weird.
the counter. And I was just like, "This dude's fucking trolling me. This dude is this dude's trolling me for sure." And like he has to be. It was just
Mm-hmm.
such a and the reason I say this, the reason I'm pointing this out is because like I think I was talking with with Rach, my wife, about this. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, y- you know, the the, it made me no, I was talking with Josh about it. That's who I was talking with this
Mm-hmm.
about. And it reminded me of our conversation with him, with Josh Marquis, about like the more we value our stuff, the more that is going to set an example for the kinds of people that we bring into herpetoculture. You know, like I don't want people like, I mean, look, whatever. I
Hmm.
can't pick and choose who can be involved in herpetoculture, but like I want people who are going to be ethical and try to make good choices and try to be good to each other and try to be good to the animals and try to, you know what I mean? Try to do like some of the right stuff
Hmm.
in herpetoculture. Like it matters if, if you have people who have never kept a reptile pet before and they go in with their family into that reptile shop that day and they
Hmm.
see those people in the shop, like these are the kinds of people who keep reptiles. Like, I'm not having my kid keep reptiles. I'm not keeping
Hmm.
reptiles if this is the way people are going to be. Like, that's a shitty way to kind
Hmm.
of engage. It's just made really like bummed me out, man. It was like a real it kind of irritated me. It made me feel um like a little bit disappointed, in the cohort. And I know that probably makes me sound super judgmental and like a little
Hmm.
bit cocky, and like, fine, whatever. I say it in an effort to try to like ask people to set a better example for what we're doing here. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, just try to just be a little bit better, especially, and like at a show. If you're like a breeder who's going to drop off the stuff you didn't sell at a rescue, bro, people are watching. There are people there with cameras. Like, people know
Yeah.
what you're doing. Like, think it through. Just think it through,
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a complicated thing because, like, I don't know. I think that, like, um, how do I talk about this?
I don't know. How do you talk about this?
I think that
Sorry.
people tend to assume that like I'm kind of a pretentious ass just because of like the
What?
way that I keep my herps, because I'm
That's
super
what.
particular, and but that's like what I'm not doing that for anybody but myself. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's what is interesting about it for me, and that's what like gets me stoked about it. And I try not to like
Yeah.
get on my high horse with other people, um, and all of that stuff. But I do feel like also like I try to think about, okay, like I'm an ambassador for herpetoculture. Like, I'm not saying I'm an
Yeah.
influencer or like anything, but like just as a participant, like if every participant is considering that they're an ambassador for this trade, this discipline, this art that we're all involved in, I think it's important to consider that, to consider those kinds of things. And it's like, I don't know, like I always think about like our conversation that we had with Heather Moy, from Fairy Tale, and just like
Hmm.
how it's like she's just going like above and beyond. And it's like, well, because like that's the herpetoculture that she wants to participate in, and like if it
Yeah.
doesn't already exist, like you have to be part of creating it, right? And I feel like there's a
Yeah.
lot of us who are approaching herpetoculture in that way. But as
Hmm.
with anything, there are also people who never consider that, like whether, for a number of reasons. And I don't want to like necessarily demonize those people because some of those reasons are
I
valid, but
No, demonize them. Demons,
but
demons, demon slayer.
but it's good to it's good to interact with people who really care, and like who are trying to do
Yeah.
things different and trying to like elevate things, and who are just like, I guess, like who are taking a proactive stance. Because that's the other thing too, is like I try not to get too sucked into just like the infighting and like name calling and drama and all that stuff. Like, it's just not for me. I'm not so good at that. But thankfully there's a
I
lot of
believe
people
you.
that aren't necessarily going that way.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I had the sort of weird experience of kind of being for a long while, for a long time. I would kind of go in and out of herpetoculture for a while. So between like high school and I don't know, there was a time span somewhere between like 17, 18, and I don't know, maybe 21, 22, 23, somewhere in that range, where like I kind of spent some time away from herpetoculture for a little while. And um, I remember one of the reasons, I mean, most of the reasons were because I was in college, and I was moving a lot and things weren't really stable. I couldn't really support a reptile at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I came back, I remember being like pretty firmly psyched to have been like missing some of that, like it felt great to not be working at a reptile shop where people were like really obsessed with those sorts of things. And like, that being said, I also remember when I worked at a reptile shop, I remember being really, really frustrated very regularly,
Mm-hmm.
because, whether it was because of the number of animals that you'd see brought in by people who were like, I don't know what's going on with them. What do I do? And it's like, man, you brought it here? Did you think to take it to a vet 6 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think about reading a book 6 months ago? Because right now, this animal's just fucked,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
it was really challenging. I always found it very challenging to deal with. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to call it. Just like that kind of stuff that really it happens. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just happens, and I feel a pretty regular push pull between most of the time just not giving a damn about that kind of stuff. Just like not focusing on it, not paying attention to it, like I'm not going to let these kinds of interactions or the kinds of things that happen like that kind of get me down. It's not worth focusing on, it's not worth paying attention to. And I also feel like, I also feel this other side of me which says that example matters and accountability matters. And
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of, I don't know, I have a really, really hard time balancing those two realities, uh, I wouldn't turn a blind eye if it was someone, like not feeding their kid
Oh
or their
yeah.
horse or their dog or something, you wouldn't turn a blind eye to it. But like, but somehow I'm supposed to have extra sympathy for someone because, well, it's like a reptile. What do you expect from them? And it's, oh, it's a reptile. What do you expect? People don't know what they are. Oh, it's a reptile. They're so different from you. They're so different from mammals. Like, what do you expect? There's like
Mm-hmm.
this bizarre level of culturally instantiated uh, acceptance of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's complicated, it's like, it's like a tricky subject. I'm going to turn the light on here in my room to get
Go
some
for it. Yeah.
light in here, but keep going.
Yeah, man. Yeah, what Kitty's just said about just like neglect being the most common form of animal abuse, it's like very real. And I think that it's like especially can be pronounced with reptiles because they're often like sometimes it's kind of part of the pitch that some people have given for reptiles over the years is like, oh, this is an animal that can like thrive on neglect. Like I've literally heard people, say that.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, it's important to qualify statements like that a little bit. Because
Yeah.
some people don't really get
Yeah.
that that's not a relative thing, they just think that that's true. But
Yeah.
maybe that's giving people too
Yeah.
much credit.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what we deal with in this world. It's like this really bizarre world of like conflicting conflicting interests, conflicting drives, conflicting um imperatives, because like,
Mm-hmm.
there is an imperative on some level to just ignore some of that shit, like, because obviously, I'm not talking about like ignoring abuse necessarily, but like, the um ignoring the fact that some people don't behave the way you want them to, and ignoring the fact that like, we're all different, not everybody's the same. It's not going to be, it's not the kind of thing where, you can have the same expectations of everyone. Of course, not everyone is capable of all the same things, and that's okay too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a village, and that's normal. And also, there are some instances in which like we probably should say more, people should be like, excuse me, sir,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's weird that those two things kind of fight each other a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I also feel like it can get complicated because we don't want to get sucked into some of the drama, right? Like we've all dealt with individuals who like really seem like they can just do nothing but get involved with some of the most stupid and meaningless gripes. And
Mm-hmm.
you're just sort of like, dude, that has nothing to do with you. Can you just let it go? Like, can we just have
Mm-hmm.
dinner, like, and not have you talking to me about this thing going on,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or whatever, like whatever it may be. Right. We've all encountered people like that too. Who can't check into now, um, sort of at the expense of something else that they're so concerned about because it's not happening. It's not right here, And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel actually, man, I was listening to this great podcast today. Do you know Rick Rubin, like the producer Rick Rubin? He's like,
Yeah, of course.
so, yeah, yeah. Okay, so everybody
Legendary.
knows that guy, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so he's got this great podcast that he does called Tetragrammaton,
Mm.
and he's got a bunch of interesting people on there, like a bunch of actors and some of them, a lot of musicians and some random, just a bunch of random people. Like he had like Mark Andreessen on there, and he had a Robert Greene and stuff. But one in particular, he had Jack Johnson. You know Jack Johnson, right? Like
Uh-huh.
the the musician, right? Not the
Yeah.
not the boxer, but the musician, right?
I figured not
And
the boxer. He's been dead for a long time, but
he's been dead
that would have
for
been cool
he's been
though.
dead. Would have been really cool if he'd had actually
Yeah.
had Jack Johnson, the heavyweight
Yeah.
boxer, on there. That'd have been so sick, dude. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'd lose my mind. I would. You
That
have
would
no
actually
idea
be
what I would,
incredible.
dude.
Jack
What I
Johnson
wouldn't
was an
give for.
endlessly interesting man.
I know. Have you heard that weird myth about him? Like, well, I don't know if it's a myth. I don't know if it's true, but about how he said about how he was like speeding through a town somewhere. He gets pulled over, and the cop tells him, he's like, "Oh, there's a $50 fine for speeding," and he gives him $100, and he's like, "I'm going to be doing the same thing when I come back, when I leave
Uh-huh.
later." Yeah,
That sounds
it's
like
pretty.
Jack Johnson
Yeah,
to me.
boy, I hope it's true. I hope it's
I hope
true.
so
I hope
too.
it's true. But anyway. I've been a fan of Jack Johnson's music for a long time. Like I've been listening to him since I was in high school, and
Hmm.
I remember kind of getting picked on for liking his music, even though he's one of the most popular musicians on earth. Shut the hell up,
Yeah.
but that whole scene, right? Like him, Ben Harper, G Love and Special Sauce. Like I loved all that stuff in high
Hmm.
school. I mean, I still love it today, but Jack Johnson in particular, and he was talking about how him and his wife have set up like this like charity on there, somewhere in Hawaii, some kind of charity thing where they like where kids can take field trips to this farm that they set up, and on the farm um, they've like kicked out invasive plant species and invasive animal species, and intentionally planted native plant species, which encourages all the native animal species to kind of come back. And um, they do like organic stuff, and which is like a lot of farming education and whatnot. And he said something on that which I feel like relates to this particular part of the conversation, which was like he was saying like you have to make the things that people care about like local to them. Like it's got to be
Hmm.
in your backyard, like if it's in your backyard and it matters in your backyard and you care about it, you'll protect it. And I
Hmm.
was just like, damn, Jack Johnson, just coming out here with some heat, like just to come
Hmm.
like yeah, it was really cool. I feel like I'd heard that before, that sentiment, but it really it just stood out today in a way that I felt was like a little bit different. It was really cool. I really
Oh,
I
totally.
really liked it.
I think that
Yeah.
that's really real. I mean, in a lot of ways too. It's like it's the absence of that allows like a lot of like the evils of the world to happen. The externalities. It's like if it's happening, if the consequences of us having like these phones like we've talked about,
Oh yeah.
is like we're not seeing the the enslaved labor and essentially and all of that stuff happening a world away, we don't have to think about that,
Yeah.
right? But it's like we'd probably feel differently about these things if we lived right next to it. That kind of thing.
Yeah, probably. Right. Yeah, man. Well, damn it, this is depressing.
I know. Let's go somewhere else with this conversation. It's got a little dark. This is what happens when we go live.
Yeah, right, for sure. Yeah, we go live. We start talking about Pokemon, Jack Johnson, and cobalt mining, and things get a little heavy. Oh my god. Oh Christ.
Well, I'm curious.
Should
Like,
we- yeah.
is anyone in the chat? Anyone in the chat? Is there anything out there that y'all want us to talk on, or any questions y'all have, or anything like that? Just since we're
Matt,
doing
though.
this thing. Not Matt.
Not Matt.
Sorry, Matt.
No, not
Although
Matt.
I do agree
you know
with you,
Matt?
banana pancakes are delicious. I know a
That's
lot of
true,
Matts.
they
I don't know
are.
if I know this particular Matt or
Do you
not.
know Matt? This is Matt. This is Matt Dalkey. He's local here to me, and he's a buddy of mine. And he started out coming to help me. Well, actually, started out he like lent me some books, just randomly. That was super nice of him. And then we kind of developed a bit of a friendship there. And he like would come to the shop every once in a while and help me out there and stuff. And I would just yell at him the whole time. So that's that, Matt. So we can, he's not
Nice.
allowed to ask questions at all. Yeah, he's barred
Well,
from.
anyone else?
Yeah, I'd love it if anybody. It'd actually be really interesting if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to ask us or hear us shoot the shit about, because it might, or if it's good, better be good. It can only be good.
And there's no pressure, people. But since we're here,
Actually, there's pressure, Roy. Come on. All right, fine. I guess nobody's gonna ask any damn questions. How rude is
that's
that?
okay. That's okay. Well, maybe we can talk a little bit about some stuff that we're working on that's upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Can we do that? I don't know. We don't really have.
Yeah. We signed contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we can talk about it. I mean, like which ones? Which ones are we talking about here?
We got so many things. Wait. What months are breeding season bearded dragon?
Any
Phil?
month.
Yeah,
Any
pretty
month.
much.
Those things will breed all year round. They'll breed it. You got a mature pair, and you put them through a cooling cycle. They'll breed any time of year. Those bearded dragons, they're awesome. God, I love those things.
I do remember you might.
Wonderful animals. No, you don't. You just lie.
Was it for like a Hog Island boa or like a K Island boa? Maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Man, I love Hog Island boas. Those things are so cool. Yeah, I'm serious. I love Hog Island boas. I think they're bad to the bone. Well, okay. So wait, which upcoming things are we talking about here? Are we talking about the?
Okay. So
Yeah.
there's a few things. One is not officially confirmed yet. We have some meetings scheduled to do confirmation about this, but for those who have been asking about a Herpeton style thing, hosted by myself and Phil, we do have something along those lines in the works for, I guess it would be Q3 this year.
Q3.
Yeah. So there's something coming up that way. And we also have some exciting things in the works with
sick Roy.
with Happy Dragons, where essentially so in addition to our webinars, we're also going to be working on offering some essentially course work coming up. And Phil and I have been deep in design process conversation around like what would be our like ideal way to approach herpetoculture from like a teaching perspective. Like how would we want to do it? What do we think are like the fundamentals that people should know if they're going into herpetoculture? And so we're essentially designing a series about that we will be presenting with our friends at Happy Dragons later this year, and we're very excited about it. So that's another thing that's coming up. And yeah, the other thing, I mean, Phil already alluded to it, but it's looking highly likely, if not all but confirmed, that we will be at
It's
Tinley
confirmed.
in October
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. It's
So
confirmed.
for all of our good friends on the in the Midwest circuit, kind of on the East Coast, everybody that goes out to Tinley every year that I never get to go see, hopefully we'll finally get
The
to
Middle
meet there.
Coast.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully I don't get sick this time. God.
You're not allowed. Not allowed to get
No, I
sick this
can't,
time.
man. I wasn't allowed to get sick this time, and I got sick this time. It's
Maybe I'll get
ridiculous.
sick. Who knows?
Nope.
I'm actually honestly shocked that I'm not sick right now because I was at this reptile show surrounded by like 20,000 people. I was fully expecting to be sick by now, but so far, touch wood, I'm not sick yet.
Yeah. Touch wood. Or just say knock on wood. Why would you say touch wood? That's the weirdest thing to say, dude.
Is that what people say? Knock on wood.
No, people say knock on wood. What's wrong with you? Touch wood.
They say both.
God, come on. No, they don't. No, they don't. They
Can
don't
somebody in the
at
chat
all.
talk
But-
about this, please? Someone
No,
back
they
me
don't
up
know what they're
here.
talking about.
No one's gonna back me up.
But yeah, no. We'll let people know because yeah, no, exactly. Nobody says touch wood.
Oh, Kitty's
No.
just buried me.
Yeah, dude. God. Yeah, just bringing some real up in here, you know. But yeah, we're gonna let people know about
Matt
Tinley.
knows. It's because I'm British. Remember? That's what the Brits say.
God. Yeah, they're wrong. There's a reason. There's a reason we took this country from them in the first place because of crap
God,
like that.
We're gonna go into that.
And the red coats, you know.
Oh no. All right. Well, anyway.
Oh, God, I love.
Is there anything else upcoming that you would like to speak about, Phil?
That's no, I think that's it. I think that's about it, man. Honestly, like we have some cool sponsorships and things that we've signed some contracts for that we're getting ready to like implement that are going to allow us to do some fun things. We have kind of a dream, like a bit of a fantasy about getting out to Appalachia to hunt salamanders and to sort of document this, photograph them, and do a podcast around it. And our hope is that some of these sponsorships and partnerships that we're basically a Project Herpetoculture trip, you know, or herping trip, not herpetoculture trip, but herping trip. And you know, maybe in a perfect world we can organize it in such a way where it's sort of like open-ended, where we can get other people who might want to join us to come kind of meet up with us and have some fun. We'd have to probably go through some vetting. Like Matt probably wouldn't be allowed to go just because. But you know, like, God, I love trolling that dude from afar. It's a great time. But you know, something like that, because you know, all of this stuff that we have coming up is all is basically like so okay, I think this is a good way to put this. Some people are the kinds of individuals who the way they get through the world is they set clear, well-defined goals and chase after them, right? And some people, me people, and I think Roy people, but also I'm speaking mostly me people, kind of have vague directions that we kind of envision ourselves going, like very vague, or not even vague, just sort of blurry ideas about where we might be headed and with what we're doing. And then the more that life happens and the more opportunity presents itself, the more clear some of those pictures become. And that's kind of the way my life has gone. Just, you know, that's just always the way my life has been. I'm not very good at having you know, a very rigid, clear goal set out in front of me about 50 miles that way. And it's like, all right, I'm just going to run that way. Like, it's not who I am as a person. And so a lot of these things that we're talking about that we're working on, they're like that. They're more, they're kind of like less, they're a little more fluid. They're not so rigidly defined, but we have an idea of where we want to go. And, you know, so getting there is a little bit, destination herpetoculture. That's awesome. That's a great idea. And, you know, some of the stuff is also stuff, you know, we'd love to partner with, oh my God. How am I blanking on his name right now? Oh my God, what is happening here?
Give me a clue.
It's him and his lady Laura. They could do their herp trips in like
Brian
Morocco and
Minna,
Madagascar. Brian Minna.
HDRP. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. So like setting up,
Mm-hmm.
putting something together with them so we can go visit some obscure parts of the world. Like, cause I think like one of the next things we want to do with this podcast is like start peppering in like expeditions, like stuff where we go to places to herp and document what we're doing and talk about it and talk about our experience, because it's one of the things that makes us very, very happy. And
Yeah.
so, I think that's kind of the big thing to knock off the docket for 2024. But, I also have a son coming this year. So
Yeah, you
we
do.
might be a little bit pressed for time in terms of when we can make that happen. So March, Appalachia in March, Roy. We could also do some fly fishing too, if you want.
I don't know. Appalachia in March might be pretty cold and snowy. I don't know. It depends. Depends on where, I guess. But
So
who knows? Fly fishing sounds great, man. I would love to do that anytime.
soon enough, we'll make that happen. But yeah, that's pretty much it,
Yeah.
I think.
Some things coming down the pipeline. Hopefully, hopefully we can do some more fun stuff as well. Like, I think that like trying to do like a Southwest trip would be really nice as well at some point. I don't know if this is the year, but that's something that's been on
Zona,
my
baby.
mind. Yeah,
Zona.
yeah.
We got to go see them chucks, collards, granite spinies, night lizards, gilas, rattlesnakes, and king snakes. Let's go. Coach whips.
Well,
Come
and
on.
I still like
America.
Alan's vision of Herpeton in the desert. You know,
I know.
that's kind of more my speed.
I know.
Herping and then campfire time. But if we can make that happen, I would like to do that.
He messaged me recently and was like, dude, I got a whole bunch of these four-wheelers and they're great for getting from one place to another herping really fast. And I was like, God damn it, dude. Alan, I'm not trying to die, dude. I'm not trying to die. If I get on one of those things, it'll be the last thing I do.
No, you'll be fine. Just don't listen to Alan.
Don't make promises you can't keep, Roy.
Noted.
Yeah, and if you don't know anything about Hog Island boas, you should go look them up. They're really cool. I love Hog Island boas. They're
very
cute.
cool.
They're so funny. A little small. Anyway. I think this is good for this. Are you ready to
Yeah.
call it for the day? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning into our first live. I think that we'll keep doing this occasionally in the future. I don't know if it'll be just me and Phil. We probably will have some in the future with a guest and all of that.
Yeah.
This was kind of last minute. We were like, we should do something. We were going to do something for like a Pomona recap anyway. And obviously our plans for Pomona were a little bit different than we anticipated. So thanks for those who tuned in, supported, and made the chat a lively place.
Yeah. We have some great guests coming up for the show, by the way. Really, really interesting, fun guests. Yeah. I'm really pumped. I'm excited. I'm pumped about all of them, but there's one in particular who I'm really, really excited to talk to because he's a friend of mine and we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So yeah, Matt's not invited at all. Just not at all.
Poor Matt.
Thank you guys. Thank you all for coming and attending with us. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to hit the button.
All right, hit the button.
Call it good. Peace out, everybody.